Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Backstage Lab, episode number 159. I am one of your hosts, Josh, here along with my Hawaiian brother from another volcano, Mr. Ben. How's it going, Ben?
Doing good. Sweating my balls off, as I'm sure you are.
Yeah, in case you're wondering at home what that buzzing sound in the back is, it's my AC. I'm sorry, but even with it on, it's still over 80 degrees here, and it is, let's just say there are certain medical ailments that begin with swamp and end with testicles. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's only 4:50 in the afternoon, not even 5 p.m., and it's almost 11 p.m. for you.
Yes.
And you're still in what, the mid 80s? I've been in 91 degrees since like 9 a.m. and I had 3 showers. There were ice water, really cold showers and real quick ones, but still 3 showers.
It is definitely summer, and that means a lot of uncomfortableness and a lot of background noise as we try to beat the heat. But you know what else beats the heat? Being able to enjoy some good wrestling.
Drink water. Oh.
That's for a different podcast that we keep saying we're going to do but never do. But
Stories from the Barracks, starring Ben and Josh. Oh, man.
Well, welcome to the show. We are 5 days removed from quite the weekend of wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
It was, New Japan, and then NXT, and then AEW, all running like almost back to back to back. And if you have family, well, I'm sorry if she left or he left because you decided, hey, I got things to do. And they involve watching TV shows about companies with like 3 initials. I guess New Japan has 4. But it really was a great weekend. Even Meltzer was like, there are 2 matches this weekend that had over 5 stars. And I think the biggest surprise might have been none of them were from New Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So
I got a bone to pick with Uncle Dave, but that's later.
Okay. And I have some issues I want to take up with the internet wrestling community,
Oh
the
my
IWC.
God. The last 3 days, I spent an insane amount of time just refreshing my Twitter feed for like 12 hours, only because I had the Weather Channel on one of my monitors, just trying to keep an eye on Hurricane Dorian and stuff. But dude, like, there is like a lot of saltiness going on about a lot of different things, and it's crazy right now.
So where do we even get started with such a big week?
Well, I tweeted this. I said, if you are a wrestling fan, you are allowed to like whatever you want. No compromises. Okay, there is no side you have to take. And with that said, I said the NXT UK TakeOver Cardiff card had the best wrestling out of the 3 events. The best in-ring performances out of all 3 shows. And then I said that New Japan Pro Wrestling's what is it, Royal Crown show? It was off and on. It was uneven. Like, there were a lot of good spots, but then the tempo would be brought down by a little bit, and then there would be another good match. But it had arguably the second best main event match with Suzuki and Okada, completely putting on a wrestling clinic. It was a classic for sure. And then for All Out, it was a roller coaster of emotions. It was the show that got me most vested in it, and I was pretty vested in all three. Need I remind you, it's the first NXT UK takeover that I watched live because
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't catch the other ones. And even though it was the best in-ring performance, it did. I have to be fair. It did benefit for the fact that it was only 6 matches long. It was the shortest of all the pay-per-views. Like New Japan went over 4 hours, so did All Out. But no show got me vested in it. Like it really played with my emotions. It made me feel like a little kid again. It made me feel angry. It made me pop big time several times. Um, yeah, like this is why everybody likes AEW. It's something new, it's something fresh, but not the concept. It's This is the type of wrestling that we've been watching in the indie scene that we wished we'd get on the biggest platform, but they're not doing it for whatever reason. It's just that somebody has the balls to start up a new company and just say, "Hey, you know what? We're gonna take the formula that everybody likes and we're gonna put it on the biggest platform that we possibly can." So I would say New Japan was an above average show. Takeover was an excellent show, or was an amazing show, and All Out was an um ex excuse me, All Out was excellent. Takeover UK Cardiff was amazing and above average for the New Japan card. But I still say Double or Nothing. I liked Double or Nothing slightly better than All Out, and and it's one simple reason. Because John Moxley wasn't there. I wasn't the only one. I thought that Kenny Omega and his match with Pac was the best match on that entire card. But let's face it, it wasn't just the crowning of the first ever AEW World Champion, because I had more emotional attachment to the John Moxley Kenny Omega storyline more so than the world title. The world title was like second place for me, and that was pretty much, at least everybody that follows me on Twitter, that was their sentiment. Like the title was like bonus. We wanted to see Kenny Omega and John Moxley dream match. We wanted to see them throw down. Injury happened, but hey, we got a awesome alternative, and that was the match for me for the best match for AEW was that match, and the result of it was also a surprise too. So that's my general thoughts on that. What did you think about all the events on Saturday?
Well, I'm not sure what I can say without rehashing everything you just said. So I will say it's always good to see Walter do his thing. Not because he's... what would somebody call him? Not because he's a flyer or a spot monkey, as we always get accused of favoring.
Walter is like a giant version of William Regal, in my eyes.
Everything he does looks absolutely painful.
He's like Finley and Regal all rolled up into a giant ball, and I love it.
So when it comes to championships and the people holding the titles, he may be the most, I think, legit looking out of every company on the planet.
Yeah.
And as far as everything else goes, yeah, it was disappointing not to see Moxley and Omega, but they have not rematch, but the rescheduling of the match already set.
Yep, for Baltimore.
Yeah. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm having a bit of a headphone issue. Let's see.
Yeah, me too.
Tag match was, exactly what I thought it would be. It was awesome. So yeah, everything you said is spot on with how I feel about it. But trying to get moving forward a little bit. It's the story that came out of All Out with Jericho becoming the inaugural AEW championship and the powder keg that went off because of it. I think that's even overshadowing the victory itself.
There's several powder kegs that came out from that, and all of them happen to be behind the scenes.
So let's start with the first one.
Yeah.
People saying Jericho wins the inaugural AEW championship. How hypocritical of AEW for giving it to an aging superstar when they've been giving WWE crap about that for years.
I know, right? Isn't Chris Jericho the same age winning the AEW title was when Goldberg was the same age when he won the Universal title last year?
Yeah, I think
Goldberg's only a year older, and he won it at 49 years old, or something like that. The only difference is, while Goldberg might have a better looking body for pro wrestling, Chris Jericho is easily the more well conditioned. Even though he doesn't look like it, he's the more physically, able than all the 48-plus-year-old guys that are in pro wrestling right now.
I think the thing to remember when it comes to this situation is Jericho is not someone that walked away from the business and came back to be on top of a company. The dude never left. Okay? He's not some, aged out part-timer that's being pushed to, he's getting pushed to sell tickets. That's what the champion's for. But he's, how do I put this? They're not dusting off the cobwebs of Jericho to put him front and center because there were never any cobwebs to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't go from WWE to the retirement home and then gets the phone call and he's like, you know what? Maybe I'll do one more match. His career never ended.
He's been more relevant since he left WWE than his last year when he was still with WWE. When you look at it, when he went to New Japan, he immediately challenged Kenny Omega, the number one guy, even though he wasn't the title. He wasn't the IWGP champion. Then he went after the number two guy, Naito, ended up defeating him for the IC championship. Then all of a sudden, now he's the first AEW champion. I would argue that these last 2.5 years, or 3, or however long it was when he last left, is better than his final 2 years. I think the beginning of the end of Chris Jericho was Jericho's good run in WWE, or at least what they did with him, was the Festival of Friendship with him and KO. And then they dropped the ball on the story after that because why? They made Kevin Owens turn on Chris Jericho 3 times in a span of 6 months.
You know what? It hasn't even been 2 years since he left WWE.
It just feels that long.
The thing that I really want to say is, one, putting the belt on Jericho was the absolute right thing to do. not just because, given the choice between Hangman Page and Jericho, Jericho's the obvious choice. No. You're going to TNT. That's a major network. You want your title on the most recognized name on the roster. The guy that has won championships the world over. The most legitimate guy you have when it comes to mainstream audiences. And there are some that are say, but we don't want mainstream. No, you have to have mainstream audience. You have to have casual fans. That's how you stay in business. It's the only reason WWE's still in business.
Going to TV is mainstream. It's, why else do it?
Exactly. And if you want more eyeballs on your product, you're going to have to, give people someone they can recognize. And at the same time, surround him with your guys and start building them up. It's a formula it's worked for decades, for generations. So this was the absolute right move. Is Jericho too old? Well, can he still go? Isn't that the only thing that matters?
Mm-hmm.
But isn't it the same thing as Goldberg? No. I mean, don't get me wrong. Goldberg is still doing the same shtick that he was when he was in his prime. But so is Jericho. And Jericho's shtick is, I can put on a great match. And he does. Because he never stopped being a great worker. So, in case you couldn't tell, my opinion is Jericho is the right guy for the job. Yeah. And it's not hypocritical in the least, just because he's 49.
It's a safe bet.
If they brought out someone that hadn't wrestled in a decade, or someone that's only wrestled a couple times in the last decade to be the top guy just because of a name, say for some reason they're like, we want Kurt Angle and he's going to be our champion. That would probably be a little on the hypocritical side. Because, he's slowed down quite a bit and they would just be using a name. Mm-hmm. But at least with Jericho, you're getting a name and you're getting talent. And you're getting a guy that is going to work his butt off for you because that's what he does.
And we're not saying that, Josh and I are not saying that about Hangman. I am a huge Hangman Page fan. The difference is, Hangman Page is on the cusp of being a mainstream name that's going to be known. He will get that on TNT easily. He will be AEW champion, heavyweight champion. Mark my words. It's just that he's going to do it with a larger audience than just the hardcores that go to these shows live or watch on the internet, both legally and illegally. That's how, when I first found out about NXT, when it stopped being the old NXT and it started being the NXT that started pumping out all these good shows since the inception of takeovers. I'm not gonna lie, I looked up, there's plenty of websites out there that host, bootleg wrestling streaming. The first 3 years of the WWE network was through that. So I was only able to keep up with WWE or NXT in that means. But now NXT is going up to mainstream. They're going to be on live TV. AEW is going to be doing the same. I think it would be better for Hangman to win the title when there's more people who knows who he is. And a lot of people, I guarantee, because of where Chris Jericho has been, not only is he a legendary wrestler, one of the greatest of all times, one of the most well-known, recognizable figures in the industry, but he's also a rock star. So, yeah, it makes sense for him to be the first champion. Now, I'm not saying he's going to go on like a 6+ month run, but to start up your TV and get interest in the brand and everything, and have a baby face chase him for the title, I think it makes sense. It makes perfect sense.
And it was already announced that Cody would be the next person to take him on for the title at their next pay-per-view outing.
Yeah, it's kind of weird the way they did it, but I'm 50-50 on that, Josh. I don't know how you feel on that, because for me, I was like, wow, that's kind of early. I would have liked to at least have 2 to 3 weeks of. I would like to have at least 2 airings of AEW on TV, 2 Wednesdays worth. Maybe have Cody get past Sammy, and Cody wins against somebody else the following week, and then, make an announcement. But at the same time, they've been knocking out of the ballpark with ticket sales.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure, like, I looked at a lot of people. A lot of people said, what? Cody? Oh, look at this. The executive vice president's putting themselves over in championship matches already. Ha ha ha. I told you guys, this company is going to fail. But then at the same time, they're like, oh, but I can understand why. Because almost every single show for the first 7 weeks of AEW TV is sold out. Almost. At least from what I've seen. From the people that actually went to Ticketmaster and bought tickets for all these shows in the next 7 cities. They're like, oh man. The ticket seller said they were almost sold out. I don't know about the numbers about Baltimore pay-per-view for AEW Full Gear, where this championship match between Cody and Chris Jericho is going to take place. I don't know what the attendance is, but I'm pretty sure that announcement is going to make a big boom for the ticket sales. I can't come up with the right word, but I'll just leave it at that. The demand for tickets. I mean, there you go.
Right. With everything.
Sorry, I'm watching Boise State and Marshall on mute. I'm talking about wrestling and watching my second favorite thing, college football. So, yeah. You were saying?
Well, what's the score, man?
14-7, believe it or not. It's a defensive battle. I thought Boise was going to smash them, but yeah, it's third quarter with 3 minutes left in the game, and it's 14-7.
Okay. Now that we have the college football update out of the way, with everything we just said about Chris Jericho and all the accolades that we, praised him and this and that, another thing happened that, Longhorn. Yeah.
Do we have that in other places of Florida besides Tallahassee?
Yeah, we have several here in Jacksonville.
Pretty sure I saw one in Lakeland.
For those unfamiliar, Longhorn is a steakhouse, if that's what you want to call it. Not like a Ruth's Chris, but kind of a medium range steakhouse. They make good steak. Jericho went to eat and lost the title. And I don't mean he lost the title, R-Truth style, got pinned or something. I mean, no, it was lost, like legit missing.
Okay, so here's the breakdown. The limo picked him up, took him to go get dinner. He left the belt in the limo, and he realized that that some of the luggage that he took from the airport didn't belong to him. So the limousine went back to the airport to go drop off that luggage, right? And this is the information from the police report that Jericho filed. So the limo driver took the luggage back to the airport, and then on the way back to to Jericho. I guess the limo driver ended up picking other people up from the airport and taking them someplace on the way back to Tallahassee. Because I don't know if Tallahassee has an airport close by or anything like that. Maybe you can say something real quick about it.
It probably does. It's the capital.
Okay.
And Florida State University is based there, so I'm sure people are flying in and out.
Okay, so the limousine driver took the luggage back, ended up picking up people going back into Tallahassee, and then at that point, when Jericho was done eating, got into the car, found that the championship belt, which was in a velvet case, was missing. So that kind of makes you go, doesn't it? So what happens is, not too long after that, I guess a day or two goes by, and then all of a sudden, after the police report gets gets out there through social media and everything, all of a sudden the Tallahassee Police Department says, "Oh, hey, we got your championship belt, Chris Jericho," and started posting memes and stuff. But they retracted that because I guess they got a call from Tony Khan to say, "Hey, take down that post." So then it turns out the press got a hold of the person that turned in the title. Says he was at a turn in the road where there was this bag just sitting in the middle of the road. He got out, he picked it up, and he says, "Oh, it's got this weight to it." Didn't pay no mind. Told the wife, "Oh, hey, look, I found something." And then it's like, "Oh, okay." They went on their way home. Then when they got home, they actually opened up the bag and they saw, they say, "Oh, it's a championship belt, and it's pretty big, and it looks like it's real gold." So the guy ends up taking creepy pictures of himself wearing the belt with no shirt, and I guess red underwear or red swim shorts or something, whatever. He was posing. He took pictures of the belt wearing the AEW title belt, and he was posing with the belt. Then on social media, he starts seeing that this belt that he has in his hands has a ton of heat on it. So I guess he was like, "Oh shit, I better go turn this in." And then that's when he goes and he hands over the belt, and he gets the statement. And then the police didn't believe him. The police was like, "Are you sure? You didn't?" It's like, "No, I found it in the middle of the road." The wife and everything vouched for him. Like, they were just leisurely driving on their way home, and they found a pouch with a championship belt just sitting in the middle of the road. So, yeah, that's the story of that. And then, of course, Jericho and AEW decided, hey, instead of the panic about it, let's spin this into a story. Let's spin this into an angle. When some of the most spontaneously done plot lines, whether it's kayfabe or not, was the most entertaining as hell in recent memory. What do you think about that, Josh?
I thought it was one of the most entertaining things I've seen concerning wrestling in a while. Someone made quite an astute observation, in my opinion.
I told you, like, I want to say this real quick. If this is a work, it's probably one of the most elaborate works I've ever witnessed.
Someone, I think, put very well, AEW accidentally created a more intriguing, interesting storyline by accident than the WWE has in months.
See, here's the thing. Vince is probably thinking like, "Oh, crap. They were probably ready to write skits for a lost championship belt just to smudge AEW on next Monday and Tuesday." Because they didn't have enough time to do it until, like, when the news came out on Tuesday, Wednesday?
Yeah, something like that.
So it was like too late already, and I bet you like Vince was like salivating to try and stick it to them, but then they ended up finding the belt so quick.
We're gonna have R-Truth go to Outback, and he's gonna lose the championship.
I bet you they're still gonna go through with it with that. They're gonna go to a steakhouse, and then nobody's gonna beat him for the belt. He's just gonna leave the belt, and then the cameraman is just gonna zoom in on the belt sitting by its lonesome self, right next to a plate of steak, and then you see these random hands just pick up the belt and walk off with it, but the camera is like staying in position so that they can sell the story that somebody walked off with the belt.
It would be funny if Drake Maverick went up to R-Truth, trying to pin him, and R-Truth's like, "No, dog, I lost it." And Drake's like, "You lost it? Who beat you?" And he's like, "No, I lost it. Like, what? Just that interaction between, Drake Maverick's like, "Who did you lose it to?" Okay, maybe it's funnier in my head, but I think that would be a great interaction. Hire us. We'll work for cheap, or at least cheaper than what you have now.
Yeah.
Moving on to a little bit of serious topic that we don't really know anything about. Kylie Rae's call it quits, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
And no reason why is specifically given. There are rumors that I really don't want to validate right now, because
I wouldn't say rumors. I would say more of speculation and hyperbole that's being forced to turn into rumors, because IWC decided to shit its bed the past couple of days and start fighting with some wrestling journalists, and some wrestling journalists decided to take pot shots at each other. It's like, hey, you should have done a better job asking these questions. Like, why didn't you?
Well, then let's look at it this way. On a Meltzer scale, this battle between the IWC and the journalists, how many stars would you give it?
I give it a 5.5 stars.
If it was in the Tokyo Dome, you'd give it 7.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Kylie Rae appears to have called it quits. I really don't want to validate or spread information that I don't know anything about. I don't believe it's my place. But I can say that whatever is going on, I hope she is, doing well, and is, doing what's best for her. And that's it. But because it is a bit of news information, because it does tie into the AEW narrative that we've been talking about in this episode, I thought it would just be worth mentioning, especially since I was becoming quite the fan. I really enjoyed watching her work, and it's a shame that at least as of now we won't be able to see more of that.
It is kind of, you have to admit, it is kind of hokey pokey, though. At least I think so. It is. You see, here's my stance on it. I believe journalists have the right to try and dig for information as long as they do it in a very tasteful and respectful manner without breaking ethics. However, if you are being sought after for a statement for going on record with something, especially if it's a member of the press, you do have the right to your own privacy, which should be respected as well. So, with that being said, no matter if you're siding with the journalist, no matter if you're siding with the IWC or whatever, the fact remains that Kylie herself is not talking to anybody about it, and nobody close to the situation who knows what's going on with Kylie is saying anything about it. The only thing that we've gotten so far is that Tony Khan, the head honcho of All Elite Wrestling said that she's no longer with the company, and that the separation between her and AEW was amicable. Meaning, there's it was done properly, and there's no bad blood. At least I hope not. But a lot of people was saying, was it injury? Was it something else? And Tony would be adamant, it was amicable. So, yes, I understand why that would stoke the flames of war for the press to try to hunt for the answers, and the IWC, because the IWC is very fickle and jaded. You know that, Josh. It's like, Here's the thing. There's Dave Meltzer fans.
Mm-hmm.
There's fans of Fightful Wrestling, which I'm not totally biased with them, but they're my favorite. Then there's people for the Wrestling Observer. There's people for NoDQ.com. All these other Cultaholic and whatever. So it's like whenever somebody talks bad about someone's favorite wrestling website or their favorite reporter / journalist, then they have to crap on top of the, for instance, my favorite guy is Sean Rossat at Fightful. So here's what I'm seeing on Twitter. If Sean Rossap is being called out by another journalist, then that journalist's community, IWC fans, would shit on top of Sean Rossap, and then Sean Rossap's fans would come and defend him, and then both of those guys' fans or communities would start going at each other. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a free-for-all. It's kind of settled down within the last 12 hours or so. I just was reading everything and kind of chuckled, liking statements that was being objective from all sides. But there's a couple of people in the wrestling journalist industry that I kind of lost respect for. I don't want to name anybody's names, but look, listen, no matter what anybody says to you, you shouldn't be calling anybody's names. You shouldn't be the first one to be calling people names. It's unprofessional, in my opinion. But that's where I stand with that. With that whole situation.
I have no favorites when it comes to wrestling journalists. And I don't take the word of Dave Meltzer as, the word of a wrestling god or something like that. He is not the gospel when it comes to how I feel about wrestling. I think that's a good way to put it. I'm interested in what his star ratings are sometimes, because for some reason he's turned into the go-to guy for rating stuff. I guess he's kind of like a Siskel and Ebert.
Everybody wants to do it. Everybody wants to do it. Like, he's kind of like the wrestling industry's TRL, Total Request Live. It's like, I want to make my own TRL top 10 list.
It gets annoying when every article I read it begins with, according to Dave Meltzer, and then, if the story that is leaked or from a source doesn't happen, you hear the follow-up, well, things are subject to change. And it's like, why does it seem like half the time things are just getting made up? Or at best, it's like...
Wait a minute, you're seeing what I'm seeing recently. Are you talking about the Observer starting to be a little bit clickbaity the last couple of days?
Dude, I'm talking about the last couple of years.
I think that, off and on, but oh my god, they've been awfully clickbaity for almost the last 2 weeks in a row, almost everything, especially Brian Alvarez.
I mean, that I don't make that sound as a judgment on
there's something
Brian
big
Alvarez,
happening in WWE right now. I can't really say, but I'm pretty sure it's there. More details to be coming soon, and nothing ever comes of it. I'm like, what?
Or
Stop.
Something happens on Raw, and it's like, that was the thing. That was the thing.
I was like, that was nothing. It was something that they've already done in the past. And by the way, bringing up your point to favoritism, when I mean he's, Fightful is my favorite, I wouldn't say favorite because there's a lot of good outlets, like Wrestling Inc. and stuff like that. But Fightful is the one that I go to first. My primary source.
Yeah.
And then I would go down the list of, of sites that I personally trust for information and stuff like that. Because there's a lot of podcasts that has information at face value, like us, and we just like to reiterate what's being reported on and what's being talked about. That's pretty much it. We're not the type of podcast that's going to be putting words into the mouths of reports that anybody can look up and read by themselves and then say, these guys made up stuff. Anybody can do that. There's a lot of wrestling, other podcasts that do stuff like that.
There's one Twitter account that it has a name that's very similar to an actual reputable Twitter feed for wrestling news, and it gets people all irritated and pissed off, when they post very trolly stories that are completely fake.
Is it one with the Finn Balor picture?
I don't remember, and if I did, I would name it here.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say who it was.
Okay, go ahead if you think you remember.
Is it Sliced Wrestling? Where every word starts off with a capital letter?
I think it might be.
Where it kind of looks like kayfabe news type of stuff.
Kinda, yeah. Except kayfabe news is funny, and I don't know what the hell these people are trying to do, but it's certainly not, comedy.
I mean, it's fine. I mean, I kind of warmed up to it as like, okay, they're obviously. I was like, is this person like trying to start shit, or are they making stuff up on purpose? Then after a while, I was like, this guy's kind of like, being a little bit slapstick with his reports and stuff like that. I was like, he's not much of a big deal. So, yeah. People enjoy that type of content. That's not my thing.
Oh man, I just saw a breaking news story, and I was like, "Wait, what?" But it's Kylie Ray Harris, country singer, just died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's been trending number one since yesterday.
I'm just after everything we talked about, I was like, "What?" Anyway, back to the topic at hand. There are just some places that irritate me, and I'll be, you know what, I'm just gonna say it. I frequent No DQ sometimes, and I mean the comment sections are, like most places, sometimes just incredibly toxic, but there are times when a story breaks, and they're really quick to post it, but maybe a little slow to follow up, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I believe the story in particular I'm thinking of was, when the most recent time someone said they got kicked out of a WWE event for wearing an AEW shirt. And the guy was like, I got kicked out. And then at the very end, he was like, oh, that was my cousin on my Twitter account that made all that stuff up. And it never really happened. You remember that one?
Yeah. There's another one where The guy actually got kicked out wearing an AEW t-shirt, but it wasn't because he was wearing an AEW t-shirt. He was asked politely to turn it inside out. The guy refused, and he took his alcoholic beverage and threw it in the face at one of the security. Then he got thrown out.
Right.
So
Deservedly thrown
WWE has been demonized enough with a lot of stuff. I'm telling you right now, at least 35% of it, it's not WWE's fault.
Some of it's just not even true.
Yeah.
Like that incident I was telling you about. I was just mentioning. It became a big story. Who was it? Offered up free tickets to MLW or something? Maybe Ring of Honor. I don't remember. Somebody was like, you can come to our show, free of charge, wear whatever the hell you want. And, he was actually getting a lot of support from some big indie, people. And then, later it comes out, and he admitted, oh, that never happened. Which is fine. At least he admitted that it was false. It was a lie. He tried to blame it on somebody else. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But that was his story that somebody else got on his Twitter account and made the whole story up about getting thrown out. The thing is, the follow-up was, in a lot of places, non-existent or very late. I don't really sound off on message boards on websites, wrestling websites, even though for a while I was an Xavier Woods top fan on Facebook, but that was taken away. Anyway, I did post in No DQ saying, so where's the follow-up? Where's the second part of the story where we find out this was all fake? And sometime later, they finally updated the article to, reveal the truth. But at that point, the story had been spread, and, I don't want to say damage was done, but, yeah, word was getting out that this kind of stuff was happening, even though it wasn't. Even though it was not a thing. So journalists also have responsibilities to make sure that just because it shows up on Meltzer's site or, Aaron Riff's site or wherever, doesn't matter. You have a responsibility to not just, to use the Twitter lingo, to retweet or repost. You have a responsibility to make sure that before you push this story along, that there is some validity to it. And just because it says, in my opinion, or I believe at the beginning, doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be shared. Because all you're doing is using your platform to share somebody else's opinion. And that is one of the reasons why, and not to take this off into a new subject, but that's one of the reasons why it's hard to take quote-unquote wrestling journalists seriously, because it's all subjective. It seems like there's only one guy that's actually trying to cover quote-unquote news, and everyone just shares what he says.
Right.
So until, people start regarding this like a sport, I guess, remember, you're getting opinions for the most part. And if somebody says it's, this is definitely going to happen, these are the things that are definitely going to be happening over the next few weeks, take it with a grain of salt. Every ticket says card subject to change.
Mm-hmm.
And whether that was the original plan or not, doesn't mean it's going to be the plan in the end. So just keep that in mind when you're combing through wrestling news sites.
Another thing too, when you're reporting something, don't ever cross, don't ever cut corners, just so that you can be the first to put something up there. I see a lot of that going on, like a lot of shorthanded stuff, like a wrestling article in about 3 or 4 sentences long, and you're like, wait a minute, is that it? And then 2 days later, on another venerable website, they have a whole paragraph with a ton more detail. That's one way to lose some of your followers, some of your subscribers.
Yeah.
Put something out when it's a well thought piece of article that's articulated very to the best of your ability. Don't. I mean, I understand that it's a first come first serve, dog eat dog thing, right? I mean, journalism and reporting is that's just the nature of the beast. But come on.
I guess my final word on this whole thing is going to be this. No matter who you are in the wrestling journalism game, I take my hat off to you for being able to make a living doing something you love about something you love. I just hope that everyone that is getting a paycheck for doing this kind of thing is taking the time to make sure that they're putting in the quality of work and the veracity of the story can be taken. You know, I'm not sure exactly what I'm trying to say here, other than be good at what you do. Take pride in your work. There's no reason to do a crappy job, because this is what you get paid to do. A family member told me, look, man, if you're going to grow up and be a ditch digger, make sure that you dig the best ditches.
Oh,
because that's what they pay you to do.
Ditch digger. I thought you said something else.
No, ditch digger.
You said it so fast, I was like, wait, huh?
So if your job is to be a wrestling journalist, can we stop the clickbait? Can we stop, making things up and just be a journalist? I know that in this day and age that there's a certain stigma attached to the word journalist and journalism. But you know what? There's also a reputation to maintain, a sense of honor that comes with that title.
Yeah. For a while there, wrestling journalism was starting to go towards tabloidism. I'm glad that it's kind of, slowed down a bit.
It's pulling back a little bit, but it's still, in fact, TMZ has become a source for...
Right, like they've been putting out
news.
like legit stuff before everybody now, and it's not just somebody snooping around somebody's house at 24/7. Like, I wouldn't have known that Ronda Rousey almost had her finger cut off if it wasn't for them. Some crazy stuff.
I guess before we go, we can talk about just real quick. It appears Ronda Rousey's profile has been moved to the WWE alumni page.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean she's done?
I think she'll be back.
I do too. But to move it quietly without any kind of, announcement or anything like that, it does make me raise an eyebrow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's all the show we have.
She'll be back. There's no way that they're not going to do the 4 horsewomen versus 4 horsewoman angle. There's too much money. There's too much money involved with that.
Look, if there's anybody that's known to leave money on the table, it's Vince McMahon.
Not if Triple H is in charge.
Well,
I'm
I
kidding.
guess that is the perfect way to end the show. Ben, where can we find you on the social medias?
We had an issue with the Backstage Slam Twitter. Somebody tried to hack it, I guess, and I got locked out of it because either you or Michael has the thing. So I just kind of like deactivated that account for now. Because
it's not me.
All right. Well, Michael said he doesn't have it. Anyway, we shut that down. So you guys can just follow me, just the three of us. I will be posting Backstage Slam stuff on my account, and I hope Josh and Michael will too, on their personal accounts. Again, follow us at Skip Comic for Joshua, at mspro21 for Michael, and at Ben BSP_. Yes, I changed it for a third time. It's at Ben BSP_. Follow us on Twitter. Go ahead and hit us up. Talk to us about pro wrestling, video games, sports, whatever you guys want. We are very active on social media, some of us more than others, as well as Patreon. If you like our content and would like to pitch in and help support us in getting better gear and future upgrades, go to patreon.com/BSP_Ben. Patreon.com/BSP_Ben. And with that, Joshua, take us home.
Well, I got 2 words for you. Too sweet.
Too sweet.